Wu nodded, satisfaction evident in his weathered features. At 63, he had spent most of his career believing humanity was a junior partner in a benevolent galactic community. Learning the truth had been difficult, but vindicating. "And the long-range sensors?" he asked. "Operational throughout the Kuiper Belt. We'll have advance warning of any conclave approach." Wu turned from the viewport. "They won't come with warships, Commander. Not yet." As if summoned by his words, the station's communication officer called out, "Admiral, we're detecting a transit signature at the system boundary. Non-human configuration, but broadcasting on emergency channels." Wu straightened his uniform. "It appears our visitors have arrived. Direct them to Diplomatic Docking Bay 3 and notify Captain Vasquez." The conclave delegation was smaller than Wu had anticipated. Only 3 representatives had come, a Ryesian light being, a Valdorian elder, and most surprisingly, High Arbiter Xoln themselves. They were escorted to Earth's Orbital Diplomatic Center, where Elena Vasquez, now promoted to Admiral, waited alongside Wu and the President of the United Earth Government. "High Arbiter," President Quan said, her tone formal but not hostile. "This is an unexpected honor." Soln's bioluminescent patterns shifted in complex sequences. When a civilization faces extinction, protocol becomes secondary. Wu raised an eyebrow. "Extinction seems dramatic, Arbiter." "Does it?" The Ryesian delegate's form pulsed with agitation. 27 worlds have lost atmospheric regulation. 15 trading hubs have descended into chaos. Medical systems across the conclave are failing. Navigational errors have resulted in 3 major shipping disasters. Elena stepped forward. "The emergency protocols we provided should have given you more time." "They did," Soln acknowledged, "but they were temporary measures. The fundamental architecture of conclave technology remains dependent on human cognitive processing. A dependency you created without our knowledge or consent," President Quan noted. The Valdorian elder, a being so ancient its exoskeleton had calcified into something resembling stone, spoke for the first time. "A mistake, one of many we have made in our interactions with your species." Wu exchanged glances with Elena. This was unexpected, something approaching an apology. "The conclave has existed for 12,000 years, the Valdorian continued. "In that time, we have encountered many species, but none with your particular cognitive architecture. When we discovered humanity's parallel processing capabilities, the potential seemed irresistible. So you decided to use us rather than partner with us," Elena said. "Yes." The High Arbiter's admission was startling in its directness. "The founding species of the conclave, the Valdorians, the Ryesians, and my own people, established a hierarchy of technological access. New species are integrated gradually, given technologies appropriate to their developmental stage, while their biological capabilities are exploited fully," Wu added. "It was wrong," the Arbiter said, their luminescence dimming to almost nothing. "We justified it as beneficial to all. Stability for the galaxy, advancement for humanity, albeit at a controlled pace. We never considered the consequences of discovery." President Quan's expression remained neutral. "And now?" "Now we face collapse," the Ryesian said, its light form flickering. "The conclave's infrastructure, built over millennia, is failing without human cognitive input. Billions will die if solutions aren't implemented. And you expect us to simply return to our previous arrangement?" Elena asked, incredulous. "No." The High Arbiter's response was immediate. "Such a proposal would be both offensive and futile. We come instead to negotiate a new relationship, one of true partnership." The Valdorian elder extended a data crystal. "This contains the complete, unredacted technological database of the conclave. All knowledge, all advancements, without restriction." Wu took the crystal skeptically. "In exchange for cooperation," said Soln. "Not servitude, not exploitation. Equal participation in rebuilding the conclave systems, systems that would benefit humanity as much as other species. President Kwan's eyes narrowed. You're offering what you should have offered 73 years ago, when we first encountered your civilization. Yes, admitted the Arbiter, because we now understand what we failed to then. Humanity was never meant to be a tool. You were meant to be partners. Elena circled the delegation slowly, her military training evident in her measured movements. How do we know this isn't simply another form of manipulation? A desperate attempt to regain access to human cognition. The Ryesian's light dimmed further. You don't. Trust must be earned, and we have done nothing to deserve yours. For the past 20 years, a classified initiative codenamed Protocol Prometheus has been developing purely human technologies, free from conclave influence or monitoring. While you believed we were dependent on your guidance, we were preparing for independence. The conclave representatives stared in disbelief at the technological specifications, many of which matched or exceeded their own civilization's capabilities. Impossible, whispered the Trassic delegate. Human development is carefully monitored. These technologies would have been detected. Not if they were developed in shielded facilities using methods your monitoring systems wouldn't recognize. Elena replied. We learned from you, just not what you intended to teach. A warning chime echoed through the chamber. One of the Conclave's technical officers rushed to the High Arbiter, their appendages gesturing frantically. What is happening? Demanded Sol. The Orion computational grid is experiencing cascading failures, the officer reported. Navigation systems across 3 sectors are going offline. Communication relays are dropping out of quantum alignment. The High Arbiter turned to Elena, their bioluminescence now pulsing in patterns that required no translation to understand. Fear. What have you done? Nothing, Elena replied. We've simply stopped doing what you relied upon. Every human connected to your systems has been disconnected. The cognitive processing power you harvested without consent has been withdrawn. Throughout the chamber, communication devices chimed with urgent messages as more reports of system failures flooded in from across conclave space. You cannot do this, the High Arbiter insisted. Billions will die if these systems fail. Trade routes will collapse, atmospheric processors will shut down, medical systems will. You should have considered those possibilities before building an interstellar civilization on stolen human cognition, Elena interrupted. The consequences of your actions are not our responsibility. Behind her, the doors to the chamber opened. Her security detail entered, followed by the remainder of Earth's diplomatic corps. Earth's withdrawal is effective immediately, she announced. Our ships have already been recalled from conclave space. Our colonies are implementing independent technologies. For the sake of the relationship we once believed we had, we've provided emergency protocols that will stabilize critical systems for the next 30 days, enough time for evacuation of at-risk populations. She turned to leave, but the High Arbiter's voice stopped her. Captain Vasquez, they called, using her military title rather than her diplomatic one, a calculated shift. The Conclave can compel Earth's continued participation. Elena turned back, her expression hardening. Can you, Arbiter? Your most advanced warships rely on navigation systems that are currently failing. Your weapons platforms use targeting algorithms processed through human cognition. Even if you could reach Earth, you couldn't fight us. Not anymore. She stepped closer to the Arbiter's hovering form. For generations, you've treated humans as clever animals, useful tools to be exploited. You never considered that we might become more than you intended. The massive viewports that lined the chamber walls suddenly filled with light as hundreds of human vessels emerged from hyperspace, ships that bore no conclave design elements, powered by technologies the assembled delegates had never seen. Humanity is leaving, Elena stated plainly. The question isn't whether you'll allow it, but whether you'll survive it. As she turned and walked away from the conclave for the final time, warnings continued to sound throughout the chamber. System after system, dependent on human cognitive processing, began the slow, inevitable process of collapse. The age of humanity as a subservient species had ended. The age of humanity as an independent power had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Cosmic Reckoning. Admiral Terrence Wu stood at the viewport of Earth's orbital command station, watching construction drones assemble the final sections of the planet's new defensive grid. 6 months had passed since humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Conclave, and Earth was transformed. Cities gleamed with new energy systems. Shipyards orbiting Mars and Venus produced vessels of purely human design. Research facilities across the solar system developed technologies at rates that would have been impossible under conclave restrictions. "Admiral," his aide said, approaching with a neural tablet, "the Jupiter colonies report their shield generators are online. The entire solar system is now protected by the Prometheus grid." The departure protocol. Captain Elena Vasquez stood tall despite the weight pressing down on her shoulders. The grand chamber of the Galactic Conclave stretched before her, its crystalline dome capturing and refracting starlight across the assembled delegates from 300 worlds. The aliens, creatures of tentacles, scales, exoskeletons, and forms that defied conventional description, all stared at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. She inhaled deeply, feeling the slightly artificial composition of the processed air. After 15 years as Earth's military attaché to the Conclave, she had never quite adjusted to how alien atmospheres felt in her lungs. "Distinguished representatives of the Conclave," she began, her voice steady despite the gravity of her message. "For 73 standard cycles, humanity has honored its commitments to this assembly. We have contributed our technologies, our resources, and our unique cognitive perspectives to what we believed was a cooperative endeavor." The High Arbiter, Soln of Meridian 6, shifted in their gravity suspension harness. The 9-limbed creature's bioluminescent patterns flickered with impatience. "Ambassador Vasquez, the Conclave recognizes Earth's contributions, but we have pressing matters regarding the Orion computational grid outages. If your statement pertains to these technical issues." "It does, Arbiter," Elena interrupted, a breach of protocol that sent murmurs rippling through the chamber. "In fact, it pertains to every computational system in Conclave space." She nodded to her aide, who activated a holographic display. Complex mathematical equations and network architectures blossomed in the air above the chamber floor. 3 months ago, Earth's Department of Xenotechnology made a discovery. An analysis of all conclave technology provided to humanity revealed hidden algorithmic structures, backdoors, if you will, designed to harness human brains as biological processors. The chamber erupted. Dozens of translation devices struggled to keep pace with the outbursts. "This is outrageous," bellowed the Trassic delegate, massive fists pounding against the transparent barrier of its methane environment chamber. "Ambassador, such accusations require substantiation," said High Arbiter Soln, their bioluminescent patterns now pulsing with rapid, agitated rhythms. Elena remained unmoved. "The substantiation is displayed before you, Arbiter. For decades, the quantum interface devices installed on every human world have been siphoning cognitive processing power from our population. Our scientists, our children solving puzzles, our artists creating works, all unknowingly contributing to conclave computational networks." She advanced the display, showing neural pathway maps alongside conclave system architecture. "The human brain's parallel processing capabilities exceed any computational system in known space. The Conclave didn't partner with humanity. You harvested us." The Ryesian ambassador, a being of semi-solid light, dimmed noticeably. "If such claims were true, Ambassador Vasquez, what purpose would this serve?" Elena's eyes narrowed. "The better question, Ambassador, is what purpose wouldn't it serve? The Orion computational grid, the trans-dimensional navigation systems, the quantum entanglement communication network, all dependent on human cognitive functions. We're not just members of the Conclave, we're its fundamental infrastructure." The silence that followed was deafening. "In light of this revelation, I am authorized to deliver humanity's final communication to this body. Alina's voice echoed through the chamber. As of this moment, Earth and all human colonies formally withdraw from the Galactic Conclave. All agreements, treaties, and technological exchange programs are hereby terminated. The chamber descended into chaos. Delegates rose from their stations, some shouting, others communicating in frequencies beyond human perception. The High Arbiter's harness elevated them above the commotion. Order, they demanded, their translator struggling with the volume. Ambassador Vasquez, you cannot simply withdraw. The protocols for separation require. The protocols were invalidated the moment the Conclave decided to use humanity as unwitting biological processors. Alina replied, "We are not seeking permission, Arbiter. We are informing you of our decision." The Valdorian representative, an ancient species known for their technological prowess, leaned forward. Without the Conclave's technological guidance, Earth will regress centuries within decades. Your civilization depends on us. Alina smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. That's what we were meant to believe, yes. She activated another display. Across the projection, schematics for technologies far beyond what Earth had officially developed appeared. Propulsion systems, energy generation, defensive capabilities. But consider this, the Valdorian added. The Conclave without humanity will eventually adapt. It will take decades, perhaps centuries, but we will survive in some form. And when we do, the relationship between our civilizations will be defined by this moment, by whether humans chose vengeance or vision. Wu studied the data crystal in his hand. If genuine, it contained technological knowledge that would advance Earth by millennia. What exactly are you proposing? President Quan asked. A reformed conclave, said Sol. With humanity as a founding species, equal in status to the original three. Complete technological exchange. Joint development of new systems that don't exploit any species' biological functions without consent. And most importantly, the Valdorian added, accountability. The hidden algorithms that harvested human cognition were wrong. Those responsible should face consequences. The three human leaders exchanged glances. This was more than they had expected, not just an appeal for help, but an offer of genuine reform. We'll need time to consider this, President Quan said finally, and to verify the contents of your data crystal. Of course, the High Arbiter's patterns showed understanding. But I must emphasize the urgency. Without human assistance, the Viridian atmospheric processors will fail within 14 days. 8 billion lives are at stake. Wu handed the data crystal to a waiting technician. Begin analysis immediately. Priority verification of Viridian atmospheric systems. As the technician hurried away, Alina addressed the conclave delegation. While we consider your proposal, I have a question. Why did you believe you could keep the cognitive harvesting secret forever? Surely you understood that humanity would eventually discover it. The three delegates exchanged what appeared to be their version of uncomfortable glances. We underestimated you, the Ryesian admitted. The monitoring systems we placed on human worlds were designed to detect conventional technological advancement. We never imagined you would develop methods that our sensors couldn't recognize. That's the fundamental flaw in how you viewed us. Wu said, you saw human potential as something to be harvested and controlled. You never considered that the same cognitive abilities you exploited might be turned toward independence. A costly error, acknowledged the High Arbiter. One we hope isn't fatal for any of our civilizations. 3 days later, the expanded human delegation met again with the conclave representatives. Additional delegates from Mars, Venus, and the outer colony worlds had joined, ensuring all of humanity had a voice in the decision. We've analyzed your data crystal, President Quan announced. It appears to be genuine, a complete technical database as promised. Relief visibly spread through the alien delegates. However, Alina continued, this doesn't automatically mean we'll agree to your proposal. Humanity requires certain guarantees. Name them, said the High Arbiter. Wu activated a holographic display showing a complex legal document. First, a new conclave charter, with humanity recognized as equals to the founding species, with all the authority that entails. Agreed, the Valdorians said without hesitation. Second, a complete restructuring of conclave technological development protocols. No species biological functions to be integrated into any system without explicit, informed consent and appropriate compensation. This is reasonable, the Rhaesian acknowledge. Third, Elena said, a joint commission to investigate the original decision to exploit human cognition, with full authority to hold accountable those responsible, regardless of their standing. This caused visible discomfort among the delegates, but after a moment, the High Arbiter nodded. Justice should not be obstructed by rank or history. Finally, President Quan concluded, humanity will maintain independent technological development. While we will work with the Conclave, we will never again be dependent on external technologies. Our sovereignty is non-negotiable. The three Conclave delegates conferred briefly before the High Arbiter responded. These terms are accepted. The reformed Conclave will recognize humanity's independence while welcoming your partnership. Wu nodded to a communications officer who transmitted a signal. Within moments, the viewport showed dozens of human vessels entering formation around Earth. Then, on behalf of humanity, we accept your proposal, President Quan announced. Earth will provide emergency assistance to the Viridian atmospheric systems and begin working with Conclave engineers to develop sustainable replacements for the systems that previously depended on human cognition. The tension in the chamber visibly decreased. There's one more thing, Elena added. The technology we developed under Protocol Prometheus. It includes advancements in computational systems that could eliminate the need for biological processing entirely. We're prepared to share these developments as part of our contribution to the reformed Conclave. The High Arbiter's bioluminescent patterns displayed what the humans had learned to recognize as profound surprise. You would share technologies you developed in secrecy, technologies that secured your independence. Wu smiled slightly. That's what actual partners do, Arbiter. They share their strengths rather than exploit each other's vulnerabilities. As the formal agreements were prepared, Elena moved to stand beside Wu at the viewport, watching Earth rotate serenely below them. Do you think it will work? She asked quietly. A genuine partnership after so much deception. Wu considered the question. I think it has to. The alternative is isolation or eventual conflict, neither of which serves humanity's long-term interests. And you trust them. Trust is earned, Wu replied, echoing the Rhaesian's earlier words. But everyone in this room now understands something fundamental that they didn't 6 months ago. What's that? His gaze shifted from Earth to the stars beyond. That humanity isn't just another species to be managed or exploited. We're a force to be reckoned with, a civilization capable of determining its own destiny. As the formal ceremonies began, signaling humanity's return to galactic society, not as subordinates, but as equals, the message was clear to all present. The cosmic order had been forever changed, not by violence or conquest, but by humanity's most powerful weapon, the recognition of its own worth. The stars had always beckoned humanity forward. Now, for the first time, they would advance into that vast frontier on their own terms, partners in the great cosmic community, but masters of their own fate.